All right, we are back here on the Just End the Suffering podcast. That you just heard the theme song, which I think is fantastic, from the HBO series Westworld. Season 3 is underway as we speak. We have 3 episodes in, and since Curb Your Enthusiasm is over, we're going to go to the next HBO show, and it's time to bring back into the podcast our pop culture correspondent, Sam DeRosa. Sam, welcome back. How are you?
Good, and thanks for having me.
Not a problem. I got to say, first time not doing this in person is a little weird.
It's actually very strange because I'm a very social few person. So I'm like, where's Mike?
Yeah. Yeah, it's like I think there were only a couple who had done every appearance in person on there a lot. It was you and Joe D. Right now, I think it's down to Joe D. That's going to change in about like a month.
Well, I'm glad I'm like one of the surviving 2.
Yeah, so you made the final 2 in that regard. But how's everything going with you in the quarantine world?
It's lonely, but it's good. Getting a routine down, doing like whatever the CDC's like have a routine. So I have my own weird routine.
Yeah, I have a routine as well. It's usually write, prep for podcast, work, and then catch up on the things I'm 5 days behind on the DVR. That's basically my routine.
Mine's clean the room in the morning, like whatever I made a mess for the day before, and then do my work for work, and then literally play video games and watch TV, and then do a little more work. So it looks like I bookend.
Yeah, spread the work out, make it last.
Yeah, so it looks like I've been doing work all day, but in reality, it's been like 4 hours of work.
Yeah, I hear that. And let's get to the point of why you're here today. We're talking Westworld Season 3. So for those who are not the uninitiated, you want to give let's say the 60-second pitch on what the show is.
Like the entire show?
Like just the general premise.
Okay. Is my 60 seconds starting now?
Go.
Okay. So there is a theme park, like a Six Flags or like compounds or whatever, full of artificial intelligence, so like robots. And it's a story of I don't like to use the word robot, but we're gonna go with that. Robot Dolores, who you see her progression to self-awareness and the different issues that arise, and very complex characters, both artificial intelligence and real life. And it is a battle between humans and artificial intelligence, and it's a great show to watch on HBO if you have a subscription.
Yeah, you did that in 42 seconds. Excellent summation.
Oh, I got worried. Time moves so fast when I'm explaining things because I'm actually a horrible explainer.
Yeah, I'll add some details to what Sam was talking about. Basically, this show is set in this theme park called Westworld, and the main point of the parks basically is that you have these characters that are built called robot hosts, they're called. Basically, it's like if you've been to Disney World, you see the animatronics, much more sophisticated versions of those are running around the parks. As the series progresses, we learn the guy who created them gives them intelligence and wants them to grow beyond their actual programming and become more sentient. The robots rebel at the end of season 1, basically. Season 2 is a bit of a mess, but it ends with Dolores, who Sam mentioned, leaving the park and bringing some hosts with her, including Bernard, who is... The show begins, we think he's a human, but we find out later he's a host built by the founder of the park, Robert Ford. The third main character is another host named Maeve, who gains superpowers throughout the series somehow. That's basically some of the stuff, but for more information on the currencies, I'm going to throw the spoiler warning up there, so... If you're not confused yet, you might want to get out and actually try and watch some of this thing, or at least go find other podcasts to explain more of this. But Westworld, very, very complicated.
Very complicated. Also, you should throw on the spoiler alarm when you're Bernard is actually a host, because that was such a mind blow in season 1. It was one of my favorite. Actually, it's my second favorite thing of season 1.
Yeah, so did you get in the show right from the beginning, or did you pick it up midway through?
Okay, so now because I was telling you before we started how I've rewatched it a few times. So I'm pretty sure I started but I don't think I started season 1 episode 1. I think I started season 1 episode 3. I think I was 2 weeks behind. I'm this is a weird show. I don't know if I'm gonna watch. And then I heard the hype for it. but I've been with it since season 1. It wasn't like the first episode, but definitely episode 2 or 3.
Yeah, I'm around the same point where I heard good things. I think episode 2 was coming out, and then I went back and watched the pilot. I'm like, ooh, this is cool. Then I sort of stuck with it and just wrote it out. Season 2,
Yeah.
Season 2, like you and I think would both agree, was a little like out there. They played with time too much, and then they had a bunch of different threads going on. But like, there were some episodes in that season where you're like, wow, this show can hit it out of the park when it's on game.
Yes. I mean, speaking from somebody who literally just watched season 2 yesterday and today, better the second time around if you rewatch it.
Yeah, once you have an idea where it's going.
Yeah. I was just like, oh, that makes more sense. You know, everything with Bernard with the time loop with him still confuses the living bejesus out of me.
Yes, it did. And we're going to talk now about like season 3 so far. So I think season 3 personally, I think it's much better than 2 was. I feel like they've gotten it back on track. They focus more. They simplify the storylines down to, I think, 3 main ones from what we can see. They added a 4th in episode 3, but we have a storyline with Dolores, a storyline with Bernard, and a storyline with Maeve. I think that's helped the show a lot.
Yeah, because I think they're like the 3, like the power hitters kind of deal. So like they'll have the characters, like the minor characters behind them. First episode of season 3, I was like, oh no, what's gonna happen to the show kind of deal, you know? Because I'm a sucker for the actual like theme park itself, like Westworld. I like seeing the different worlds. And so, like, when they had episode 2 with the war world, and then I guess you should put up the spoiler alarm, so it's okay.
Yep.
To say, but when it was, like, all in Maeve's, like, you know, her, not imagination, but, like, her, like, percepted reality, like, that she figured that out. Like, I was a little upset. I'm like, oh, we're not really in Westworld. But then, like, Bernard goes there, and I'm like, what? I'm like, stop teasing me with the Westworld, like, being there.
Yeah, it was definitely interesting. We'll start with the Dolores storyline first. I mean, we pick up the season where, like, she is out in the real world. She's trying to infiltrate this company called Insight. She's trying to find information how to get back at the humans. And, I mean, what do you think her master plan is here? What do you feel like her main goal is?
I'm like, oh, I cannot for the life of me think of it spits out all this, like ideas and stuff, like that program, that giant computer that they've developed, that in the first episode she tries to seduce the man for
the Insight.
Yeah, so like I think she just wants to corrupt it.
Yeah.
And she's gonna so in episode 3 that we just saw, she tells Caleb that like this is all you're gonna amount to because this is what this computer told you you're going to be. So what I'm thinking is like she's gonna like set free not only the host but also like mankind.
Yeah, because in this world, mankind, basically the elites run everything. It's the 1% of the 1% thing. You kind of see on Mr. Robot a little bit, which I love that show. Getting a little bit of that here. I also think Dolores' storyline is because like she is like the most bloodthirsty of any of these hosts, and like we see her episode 1 basically just like rip apart an entire military unit of mercenaries out to like basically like kill her, which I think was pretty impressive.
And it's really cool because I think it was season 1, episode 1, where the first ever episode, she kills the fly. So you go from killing a fly to killing all those people in like 2 seasons. It's like a pretty cool character arc for her.
Yeah, it is, and she's basically been paired so far this year with the new character Caleb, played by Breaking Bad alum Aaron Paul. So, how do you think he's fitting into this show?
Because I watched, because episode 3, I apologize. Episode 3 came out, and I think it was in this episode where I was, okay, like, Caleb is part of this. Because at first I'm like, I understand they have to set up Caleb's character. We don't know much about him. But I was very wary about him. But now I'm like, okay, like, you deserve a chance, and I will give it to you.
Yeah, I feel like in terms of the human characters, the most pure human character on this show is since Elsie.
That's true, yeah. So I feel so bad for Elsie. I wish she survived.
Yeah, poor Shannon Witwer got such the raw end of the stick on this show. She was like a breakout character season 1. Then she disappears like halfway through the season. Like, we don't see her again until about the end of season 2, where it finds out that Bernard basically like knocks her out and like leaves her like trapped in like a cabin or something in a different part of the park. Then she comes back, Leslie so gets killed off by the Charlotte robot.
Yeah, I was like hella pissed. Also, I thought she was a host for a little bit. I was like, no, she's not real. Because I'm like, how do you survive for that long?
Yeah, well, I mean, the show does a good job of like blurring the line of actually questioning like, are you a human or is this a robot? Like it's programmed to think it's human. Like we talked about before.
Yeah, like Luke Hemsworth's character.
Yeah.
I didn't see that one coming.
Yeah, that one was a surprise. I know they dropped it at the end of season 2. They basically made it subliminal, like, oh, like he was actually built as a robot. And the whole time we thought he was actually just a human. And then we basically
the only time I thought he was a host was when he's like, I've been here so long, I can't remember like how long I've been here. I was like, oh, maybe, and then I was like, forgot about it because that was the last episode of season 2. And then he was a host, and like, holy snap, like that's insane.
Yeah, they do a good job with like making you question stuff. Like there's especially in episode 2, the Maeve episode, where we see the great Lee Sizemore, played by Simon Quarterman, come back, and then you have this whole bit where like at the end of season 2 you thought he died because he gets basically riddled up with bullets like most of the way through, like as he's helping the host try and get to this frontier park, basically where the conscience can be free. He comes back, and then we find out that he is actually a host designed in this fantasy world they made to occupy Maeve's mind, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I know. I was really upset because I really enjoyed his character. I hope he's like secretly alive.
I would not be surprised if a Sizemore host actually showing up in the park at some point, because I feel like we're not done with the park yet.
Okay, so I don't know. I know I'm kind of like sidetracking, but I was rewatching the entire series because I'm crazy. But there's an episode, I think it's in season 1, where like they're showing Logan all the different hosts. There's a host that looks just like him, and it's really bugging me. And I'm like, I'm not too sure if I'm like on something or all like people are starting to look similar. But I'm like, wait a second, that looks like him.
That wouldn't surprise me if they had stuff like this going on, because Ford remember the original founder of the park, Robert Ford, played by the great Anthony Hopkins, by the way. I love the fact they actually got him on a TV show, but he made a young version of himself. So, I mean, anything's possible with this show.
That is true.
Yeah, I remember that as well. I think the thing about Caleb I like is that, like, he is a complex character. Like, you see him in the pilot of season 3, where he's going out basically using the crime app to go, like, basically rob people to get money and you find out it's just to help out his sick mother, and you're like, oh, I understand it. And that gave us our great cameo from the one and only Marshawn Lynch, which I love as a sports fan.
It was so funny because I'm like, that looks like Marshawn Lynch, and I'm like, no, I'm just losing my mind. And then I was watching like the after scenes, and it was like Marshawn Lynch. I'm like, holy mackerel, like there he is. I wasn't crazy.
Yeah, I love they gave him the light up sweatshirt that basically lights up whatever his mood is. That was fantastic.
Yes, he actually talked about that sweatshirt too. If you watch the after scenes, like behind the scenes stuff, he's so funny.
Yeah, because I love that. I think his character's name is actually called Giggles, which I think is hysterical considering his personality.
Oh yeah. Wasn't he in a role on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, like a guest role?
Yeah, for somebody who did not like the media when he was playing, there's actually some interesting real life stuff going on with him.
Yeah, if you look it up, if it's not going to ruin anything watching it. If you look up his episode that he was in Brooklyn Nine-Nine to watch it, he's so funny.
I'll add to the Quarren stream checklist here. There's enough stuff going on in the streaming queue. We'll get to yours later, but I'll stick to the Westworld. I think Aaron Paul, I think his character works. I like that he has this sort of like, he's going along because he doesn't realize the host initially was like, it's the right thing to do. She needs help. Like, he's like a pure character. He's not something we see from the rest of these humans who are all just greedy pigs, basically.
Yeah, and I like that. I think on some level, Dolores like respects that, and she's not like completely like self-centered. Like, she's self-centered, but not like insanely. Like, she's there to like. I know she has motives to do what she wants, but I think that she also like wants to help on some level.
Yeah, I feel like in some level, like Caleb is filling the role that Teddy had the first 2 seasons for her, where like he was like the good guy love interest. She ends up like killing Teddy, I think, in season 2 because like he couldn't do what the Wyatt side of her personality wanted, and for people who are wondering what that is, Ford programmed her with a separate personality, like based on like a renegade called Wyatt, who was basically the rebellious side of Dolores. I think like Caleb fills that Teddy spot.
Yeah, but no one can replace James Marsden. He holds a special part in my heart. But I think she shipped him off to like where the coordinates are,
Yeah.
to all the information.
Yeah.
And I think that's where he is right now.
Yeah, in that, I think she alluded to him possibly being in the Forge with the Ghost Nation people, with Maeve's daughter, with like all those other hosts who they sent there to basically free their minds from having to be like in the park.
Yeah.
Yeah, and speaking
Well,
of,
he's also there. So, like, he's also there by himself, though.
Yeah.
At the end, he's all alone, which I would think there would be other, like, hosts there. So I'm just thinking that, like, it's a separate place. Like, he's just with all the numbers. He's just with, like, information. He's all alone, but he's with information. Because I feel like she only trusts him to, like, guard the information.
yeah, it might be a motive there, but now you brought him up, I do want to get to another interesting point, because this episode, we spent a lot of time with Charlotte Hale, played by Tessa Thompson, and we'll give a little backstory for those who are not familiar with the show entirely. Season 1, she shows up late as a board member on the company Delos, who runs the park. Season 2, we think we're following her trying to stop the rebellion, but we find out late in the year that Dolores made a host that looks like Charlotte, kills her, and then leaves the park in the Charlotte host body, brings along 5 brain balls. Later on, we see that, again, if you're not following this, we're doing the best we can. This is very complicated. Yeah, so continue the point here. Like, Dolores rebuilds her own body as a host. We see the Charlotte host being put back into Delos to sort of be a mole, but we don't know what host's like brain ball is inside of Charlotte. So, who do you think that is right now? Who do you think is playing the role of Charlotte?
So, while I was rewatching the entire series, I wrote down like a few people, and I honestly think it would be like an alpha model, like the original host, which is like, you know, Teddy and Dolores, but also I can't tell if it's like more of like a female or a male presence, because at some parts like Charlotte like sounds like a man, like when she like kills the man in the park. You know, she has like more of like a manly presence. And then like when she's like alone with Dolores, she's like crying and upset. So I'm like, who the heck is this person? So I really think it could be 3 people. And it's Clementine, Angela, or Mr. Abernathy. Which I feel like maybe he has a first name, but I don't know who it is.
I think it's Peter Abernathy.
Okay, I call him Mr. Abernathy because I don't know him on a first name basis.
Yeah.
So it has to be one of those. I have to be one of those 3 people. Angela, I feel like would be like a long shot, but I wouldn't be surprised. I would hope it was like Akita. He's like, I know I can't pronounce his name.
Yeah.
Ends up being my favorite character with Maeve on season 2. Like he would be like a super long shot, like insanely. But like I wouldn't be surprised if he's one of those brain balls in her purse.
Yeah.
Because he's also an alpha. You know, he's an alpha model. Like he's been there. Like he has certain like little things that I feel like would help Dolores.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. A lot of possibilities there. I think Teddy's a strong possibility just because the way that they were interacting in the episode, like it made it feel like the way the dialogue, especially when she first brings the Charlotte host online, it made me feel like Teddy was there. But then I got thrown like in the scene when they're in the hotel. I'm like, this doesn't sound like something Teddy would say. So maybe it is somebody like Clementine who who was an assistant character to Maeve in the original park, and then basically gets lobotomized in the middle of season 2, in the middle of season 1, and then you wonder.
And that like lovely scene in the last episode of season 2 where she like rides it. She's like the last member of the apocalypse, basically. You know, like she's riding on the white horse, like she's supposed to be Beth. So like I'm wondering, like, yeah, she is like kind of lobotomized. So I'm like curious if she's fixed. Like that's the only thing I don't get about this show is like how you fix people. Like it's so strange. So I really think it might be Clementine. Like Angela, I think like blew herself up or something.
Yeah.
So like I'm like, is that her? But then again, like they have that bulletproof brain little holder because they don't really have brains.
Yeah. Yeah, they're all brain balls at this point. Like that's the basically their entire code and personalities are these little like black balls that you can insert into a host. Like we saw that like the Maeve host had the brain ball removed and at the like in the scene episode 2 when Bernard goes looking for her in cold storage. But like I think Teddy makes sense. The other one I'll throw as a dark horse. We haven't heard really anything about Armistice yet, so like I could see her being inside there too.
She's the one with all the snake tattoos, correct?
Yeah, she's the one with all the snake tattoos who was helping out Maeve and Hector for most of season 2.
I know. So like I thought that it was gonna be her. So you know, like the when Charlotte carved like stuff into her arm and into her chest.
Yes.
That's when I thought it was her. But then I'm like, they barely had any interactions with each other, and she's not even one of the original hosts. Where like Dolores would have like spent time with her to remember who she is. So like that's where I'm like, especially when she like did like, you know, carved into her own host body, I was like, oh, that could be her. But you know what? Who knows in this show?
Yeah, it could be somebody we completely out of left field we've seen once, and then it just happened to be Charlotte. So you never know with this show.
Yeah, it could be what's his face, Hector, right?
Yeah,
like Maeve's love interest. It could even be him. That's even more of a long shot.
It could be because we only saw Hector in the dream in Maeve's fantasy sequence there. We never saw his actual host body in the parks again.
Yeah, that's true. I just love. I just know that because Felix is one of my favorite characters, just because he's like super like loving. You know, he's another one of those good humans.
Yeah.
So I'm like curious before he went.
Yeah, Felix and Sylvester, I believe, are still working at the park, as far as I'm aware.
Yeah. Well, I hope they're okay. I really root for just Felix. I don't care about the other guy.
Yeah, Sylvester's a little bit of a douche.
Yeah, big time.
Yeah.
Like, he's also only did things out of fear. He didn't care.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I'm hoping he cared at the end when they're like, pick the host you want to, like, save or whatever. So, who knows?
Yeah, I think he's one for sure to keep an eye on. And I think, let's go to Maeve. Before we move on from Charlotte, I want to say, this show does a good job of making you care about characters you really didn't care about. You mentioned before the Akishita from last season, where his episode where they gave you his backstory was like the best of the season. I think what that
was the best of the season. Oh my god! Yeah. And like I was like rewatching it because of course I'm doing like actual work when I'm rewatching Westworld season 1 and 2. But for his episode, I stopped everything I was doing because it was such a good episode.
Yeah, his was great. They gave you a lot of good backstory on Charlotte. Apparently, in the real world, like she has a kid and like she had like a significant relationship, and like they gave you like make you care more about like the actual Charlotte, as opposed to like in the past, you sort of like this soulless corporate type in the first 2 seasons.
Yeah. Did you like how the kid was like, "You're not my mom"? Like he knew.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting. Like he could sense that something was off.
Because at first he's like, "You're not my mom," because his parents got divorced. Like she was like his mom. But like that was when you're like, oh, he's just saying that because they're like divorced. But it wasn't until she's holding him in bed and he's like, "I want my real mom back."
Yeah, it's interesting he picked up
like
on
that it. That was so weird. And then like when she's killing the man who is the pedophile in the park, she was like he just like, you know, because she knew that he knew that like you can't fool everybody.
Yeah. She can't fool everybody. Let's go to next character. We'll go to Maeve for a little bit. The Maeve storyline. We got most of that in episode 2, where we see her wake up in the park. She thinks she's in this war world, which is based on fascist Italy, I think, in the middle of World War II. We see her work with Sizemore, who we think at the time is alive, to escape. Then we learn the whole bit that this is just an illusion to occupy her android mind, which I love the part of that episode where they basically close the letterbox in when she realizes it. So like we basically change the format ratio, make you realize that it's not what it seems. So I think it's a trick I've seen them do on the show Homecoming on Amazon Prime. That's really cool.
Oh yeah, I haven't seen that show. But I was just so disappointed that you weren't actually in Westworld. That I was just like annoyed. But the concept is super insane. So like you're in Westworld in this fake Westworld, but then you also have like the where the humans fix you. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
it's so complex. It's like so insane. It's like a world within a world within a world. So I'm just like Jesus. But I can't figure out where that like artificial intelligence like reality world is.
Yeah, I think it's like in that unit, like where basically May's brain ball is in like a separate facility with a couple other ones, and at the end of this, she realizes what's going on. She manages to trick the simulation by basically because she has a great line about how one thing I learned about humans is that you're all lazy, and she basically comes with like a riddle to stump the code, and then she basically
Yeah.
has hijacks a robot to break her brain ball out. But I,
Yeah, that was so cool. I
yeah,
like how she's like, she'll do. And I'm like, oh no, that poor robot.
yep. Yeah, and then at the end, we see her back in her actual host body. She basically is trying to be, I think, another one of the new bad guy of the season, basically using her as a pawn to try and take down Dolores. So I think it's interesting to see how she tries to overcome that because this guy can
See,
actually.
I think she's in another reality because I don't think that guy's an actual person. I think that guy might be the whole system. I'm
Interesting.
not too sure because we haven't seen him in person except with Maeve, like with Dolores, not with Dolores, with Charlotte. She has to wear holographic glasses. I'm not too sure about what kind of technology they use. But I'm thinking like, is this guy even real? Like, I might be just paranoid, but
This show, you never know. You can never rule anything out.
that's true.
Yeah. Let's go also to Bernard and Bernard's storyline. We saw at the end of season 2, Dolores brings him back online, and basically says, I need you to be a check on me in case I go too far. And right now it seems like his mission basically is like, I'm going to stop Dolores from basically like destroying all of mankind. And the one thing I will say that they put in the show, which I'd be concerned about if I was a Bernard fan, I don't like the fact that he has a remote control that controls, like, basically switches him from human to full on unaware robot. That seems like a bad idea to have that just floating around in your pocket.
Yeah, just hanging out there,
Yeah.
like reaching in for change, flips the switch. Like,
Yeah.
I'm just so like I only really honestly liked Bernard season 1 because you think he's human until he's not, and then I'm like, oh, he's a host. But then like season 2, it kind of lost me on my Bernard fan train. Just because I like want him to be Arthur, you know, like I want him to have that self awareness of Arthur, but he never will because he's built by Ford. But I'm just like, I don't know if he can stop Dolores. I feel like he'll be like, hey, like this is fine, but maybe not kill like 100% of the human population, just kill 99. I feel like he can't even really stop her.
Yeah, I think his mission's gonna be fun. Now he's got Stubbs on his side again too. That will also be interesting to see them sort of buddy cop it through the rest of the season.
Yeah.
I also loved how Bernard, like Stubbs, also like basically realized like my function is to protect all hosts. The hosts are basically dead, so I'm gonna try and off myself. And Bernard basically reprogrammed and says, your mission now is to protect Bernard at all costs. And he's like, you could have just asked.
Yeah, that was clever. That was cute. Also, I like how everyone was like, what's the deal with Hemsworth on the show? Like, what's his purpose? Because they've been saying that for 2 seasons. And now he has a purpose. I'm like, thank goodness.
Yes, the forgotten third Hemsworth brother, Luke Hemsworth. Everybody talks about Liam and Chris, and nobody talks about Luke.
Oh, poor Luke. Isn't he like the oldest or something?
I think that's correct. I feel like he is the oldest.
It's such an oldest thing people to forget about is the oldest child.
Yeah, we both relate to this.
Exactly.
Yeah. Last thing before we move on from the Westworld, because there's a couple other things I want to hit on with you in terms of the pop culture sphere. Like, who are some characters we haven't seen yet? You're surprised that we haven't heard from
In season 3?
Yeah.
Well, I guess it's not really like that big a surprise. Like, I was surprised we didn't hear from Will already.
Yeah.
Because but you know, then I saw like the teaser for next week, and it's like probably all Will oriented.
Yeah.
So like Will or oh goodness, or like Felix. I want to know what the heck's going on with Felix.
Yeah.
He's probably like my main concern right now.
Yeah, my main thing was like, where's Ed Harris? Because he's been in the main credits. He hasn't appeared in an episode yet. Like, he's been the biggest like name star on this show for the first 3 seasons, and like the fact we haven't touched on his storyline yet. The season's almost halfway there. Is a little strange.
Yeah, that's true. I don't know. I can't remember. I don't know. I love Will, the beginning of the series, Will, and then I'm just like, he's just so he's a great character because he's very torn about his thoughts and stuff. But the part where he's just so obsessed with the world now that there is really no Westworld right now. I'm like, what the heck is his deal gonna be? Or are we just gonna see Host Will's brain moving? If we're just gonna get Host Will and he's actually dead.
Yes, another interesting.
These are things I need to know next week.
Yeah, Keith even forgot that post-credit scene at the end of season 2, where we find out some point in the distant future he has basically become a host, and they're trying to program him so he's actually more of his full personality. I don't think we're there yet, but I'm curious when we get that addressed.
Yeah, although it's very fitting because of all the crap he put Delos through, his father. It's just so crazy.
It is. We'll check back in on Westworld in the future. Sam's agreed to come back on after the season. Hopefully by then we'll have more answers and probably a lot more questions about what's going on.
Yes, I'm so sorry. I'm very Westworld oriented.
Yeah. Let's talk about the other big pop culture phenomenon right now, which is Tiger King on Netflix. This documentary has taken over the world, and I got to say, you've seen all 7 episodes. I've seen 1. I have one question for you about this.
Okay.
Why is this popular?
I don't know, but the fact, and I know you told me you only watched 1 episode, so I won't go into huge depth. I know you probably seen spoilers, but I'm gonna respect the 1 episode watch. The fact that I got hooked after the documentarist or whatever, the guy who made the documentary was like, oh, so I didn't plan on this documentary being filmed for 5 years. I'm like, this is exciting. This is why, how you and I have to make the documentary for school and everything. So I'm like, imagine if you and I picked a topic, we were filming, and then something completely railed our entire documentary, and then we spent the next 5 years filming it. I was like, this has to be good. Yeah. So I'm thinking it's just because it's a dumpster fire, and because we're all in quarantine, this dumpster fire is needed to keep our minds at bay.
Yeah, part of me wonders, if we were not all locked in our house right now, would this thing be successful as it is?
I'm not too sure, because I think eventually it would. It'd be a longer curve, but our COVID curve, if there was no quarantine, it'd be the flattening of the curve. You know what I'm saying? Can you picture that in your head?
Yes, I can picture.
But since we're in quarantine, we're that big parabola that's insane. All the people watch it at once kind of deal, because we have all the free time. But I do think it would have picked up a lot of numbers eventually, not all at once, but.
Yeah, because all I hear about on Twitter is Joe Exotic. I gotta say, the 1 episode I've seen, this guy is something else.
And then he just gets more. It just gets more insane. You think it can't get more insane, but then again, also if you have any idea about Florida, that's basically the, this underline, anything from Florida is basically crazy anyway. It's a lawless state in certain ways, so I feel that's just the documentary for you. But I thought it was well perceived. Some of the stuff in there, I'm interesting. There's some undercover filming kind of deal that I was just a little my little red flag went up. I'm eh. But then you'll see the speedboat, or not the speedboat. Since I'm not from Florida, I don't know these terms. It's the jet ski scene. You'll thoroughly enjoy, Mike.
I cannot wait. I'm gonna keep watching this because I have to see how this train wreck ends, because this is just such a dumpster fire.
Just keep in mind, the only protagonists in this entire documentary are tigers and all the poor animals. Just so you know, I hope people know that owning animals like that in bulk is not a great thing to be proud of and everything.
Yeah, I was not a
And
big.
also, everything can be blamed on Carol Baskin. That's all you'll learn from this, I promise.
Yeah, well, I'll definitely find out what's going on. What else is on the Sam streaming queue right now?
Ooh, what is? I cannot think of words today. Definitely, I'm finishing up Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Really enjoy that show. I stopped watching it after season 5, and I'm like, oh, I don't know why I stopped at all. But I definitely, once it's over, the plot against America is on my watch list. What else? You did mention to me that Whose Line Is It Anyway is new, so that's gonna be on my watch list. Oh, Golden Girls, that's another big one too. So this is for now. This is for April 1st. This is on my quarantine bucket list.
Yeah, April 1st quarantine bucket list. I've thrown you a few other suggestions off air, so like I'm gonna say some of these. I'm giving my playlist out with the great Alan Pines down the line, but next week we're talking about another item here. John Stanko's coming back on next week. We're gonna be talking about McMillions next week.
Oh yes, that's what also is on my list that you mentioned to me the other day. I was like, that sounds so interesting.
Yeah, all hail HBO, as John likes to say. I'm excited to talk to him next week about all that. And I hear he's watching Westworld too, so hopefully he'll have an update on. We can talk about episode 4 with him next week.
Yeah, I'm very interested on his take on Westworld this season.
Yeah, because from what I've seen, he's all in. I've seen him on Twitter. He's basically like, "This season's great. We're back on track. I'm watching regularly now."
Oh, good. I didn't see that tweet, so I was like, does he even like it? Because we have some varying opinions about things, so I always like to make sure that I'm on Stanko's good side.
Yeah, you don't want him. You don't want him ripping you on Twitter. It's not fun.
No.
All right, there you have it. Sam DeRosa doing some pop culture heavy lifting. Thanks again, Sam. Before I let you go, how do people follow you on Twitter? Keep up with some of the stuff you're up to.
Yeah, let's just see if I get it right this time. It's at SDEROS5 on Twitter. And from there, you can find me on basically anything. Just Google Sam DeRosa.
All right, there you have it. Thanks again, Sam.
Thanks so much for having me.